Fall is upon us, and so it's time to talk about school. Public schools throughout the state of Iowa and all across the nation are struggling in the midst of a pandemic to figure out how to learn and to teach, but also how to do it safely. Here in Ankeny, we will have a hybrid system where some of the students will be in class and others will be online learning at home, and that will take some time to get used to. Here at the church and in every other church across the nation, the question is, how do we do church school? How do we do confirmation classes? How do adult learning opportunities take place? Our approach this year is not going to be hybrid. We're not going to open up the building until we feel that it's safe. So all of our preparations right now are video-based. We've begun the process of putting together a curriculum and video presentations that will guide us through that curriculum through the whole year. It's not necessarily that we think we're going to be apart for the whole year. In fact, we'll be looking at things week to week, month to month, to see what the best course of action is to keep people safe and healthy. But the videos are going to be prepared so that we can use them at home as long as we need to, and that when we come back, however we come back, the videos will still be prepared to provide us some continuity and some preparation ahead of time. So as you think about church school, confirmation, adult learning as we go into the fall, know that you're going to see us and me on a video screen, either on your TV or your mobile device or however you do it, and that's going to be a fact. It's maybe not the thing that we all think is best, but it is a way for the church to be the church. And as long as we're talking about Jesus, folks, well, we're church. I also want to tell you a little bit about the curriculum that we've developed. We've been talking since last spring about developing a new curriculum that would integrate all of the ages of the congregation into kind of a cohesive whole. We've also been talking about a different approach to teaching because the whole world has changed in our lifetimes, and we're not all that sure that the things that we've been doing, which are rooted in the past in many ways, are really working out. Last spring, we studied a book together as a staff that was based on The Great Spiritual Migration by Brian McLaren, and he asked an interesting question in that material. He said, you know, for a long time, the church has been a school of the Bible, where we memorized verses so that we thought we knew the whole thing. Sometimes it's been a school of doctrine, where we taught people the right things to believe so we could distinguish ourselves from those people over there who didn't believe like we did. Sometimes we've been a school of morals, where we listed all the things that we couldn't do and made sure that we all towed the line. Sometimes we've been a school of knowledge, which is attested to by all the books I have here in my office, I suppose. But that knowledge didn't always translate into faith. So McLaren asked the question that kind of got under our skin: what would it be like if instead of all of those other kinds of approaches to school, the church became a school of love? Now that may sound a little corny, a little sappy to you, but as we began to think about it, it made a lot of sense. So we've developed a new curriculum that we're just going to call the School of Love. The School of Love is dedicated to looking at what it means to love God, to love our neighbors, and to love creation. That's what the Bible is concerned about. Not tradition and passing it on, not making sure that the future is set in heaven, but instead, the scriptures tell us a story about loving God, loving our neighbors, and loving creation. What does it mean to love God, love neighbor, and love creation when you're at school? Love when you have gifts for music. What is it like to love when you're in a meeting with a bunch of your co-workers? What does it mean to love God, love neighbor, and love creation at the skate park, the water park, and the playground? What does it mean to love God's creation enough to care for it? What does it mean to love God, love my neighbor, and love the environment when I'm driving my car? So what does it mean to love your neighbor when they're hungry? What does it mean to love God, love neighbor, and love creation through the communion of saints, and even at the time of death? Love is the most important thing to know about God. It is God's love that makes us who we are. So as we talk about a school of love, we'll be talking about God. Indeed, you can't really read the Bible without the word love. If you took a Sharpie and blacked out all of the times that, for instance, the writings of John said the word love, well, it would look like some document redacted by the CIA or the NSA. You wouldn't be able to read it. Love is that central. You can't read Paul without understanding love. He says faith, hope, and love abide, but love is the greatest of these things. You can't acknowledge the story of Jesus without knowing love. To look upon the cross and see one who loves us enough to die for us, and who commands us, love one another as I have loved you. Paul, in his letter to the Colossians, tells us some words about how Christians are to look and act in the world. He says, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another. And if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you. Think about that image for a minute. A world or a people who are clothed with compassion, kindness, humility, and patience, and meekness. That's not the world that we inhabit right now, I don't think. As we look around the world, we are a divided and broken people. Our nation is divided and broken. The world, especially in the midst of pandemic, is a place where it seems like chaos rules. And people, well, we don't seem to be living at our best. Paul goes on to say, in a verse that maybe we should all have tattooed, if that's our sort of thing, above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Binds everything together. We need that in our world today. The trouble with all of the past ways of being a school in the church is that it doesn't seem to have, in our day and age at least, done very much good. As a matter of fact, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian in our world. We pretty much all look the same. The cause of Christ does not well up in patience and meekness and humbleness. Just look at your Facebook page or the latest news feed. We live in a world where Christians have been relegated to the sidelines, looking on with everybody else, wondering about what to do with the chaos, the division, and the violence of this world. So, our plan is to be a little bit more active, to teach what it's like to clothe ourselves in love, and so hence the School of Love. The outline of this curriculum will be based on the core beliefs and values of our congregation, which are all about God's love. As a matter of fact, the first core belief said, God is love that binds together everything and everyone. And that's where we're going to start. Each unit of the coming curriculum, which will be then spun out for grade levels according to age and development, all the way up to adult education. So that from the little ones who are pre-K to the adults who are in a retirement and have been around the church forever, we're going to focus on units of learning that are based in our core beliefs and our values. Each of those units are going to have 3 sessions where we look upon the broken relationships that we have in this world and learn what it means to love. To love God, to love our neighbor, and to love creation. When we do that, we address the evil and the violence and the brokenness of the world, because sin really is nothing more than the relationship of us and God, us and our neighbor, and us and creation broken. Over the course of the year, you will receive materials and you will receive resources that will allow you to learn in the school of love. And we invite you to be part of that. Keep your eyes peeled. Keep your email account on. Subscribe to the learning and all of the other information mail lists that we have so that you can become part of our school of love and learn what it's like to love God, love our neighbor, and love creation. Look forward to seeing you at school.